So the real cause must be something else. There's more to the story. This is a common thing that happens in really the whole world of science. We take these super complex systems, biological systems, immune systems, nervous systems, and we reduce them down. We reduce down to these tiny parts, molecules, receptors, and then we plug and play something that has an action there, pharmaceutical drug, neurotransmitter, etc., or just to oversimplify a complex immune issue, complex issue to germ theory, something like that. It's oversimplifying things. The truth is that biology is highly complex. The immune system is highly complex. So we have to appreciate and understand that and approach it from a more natural way that's actually going to address and meet it at that same complex level. So if we can do things to support the body, then we can manage these acute conditions. So instead of concentrating, this is what I'm saying, so instead of concentrating all of the energy onto killing the germs, and the germs, they're part of the ecosystem. They're part of life. They're part of life as we know it. We cannot, there is no place that is aseptic, that has no germs. All these wipies and the soaps and the everybody's wiping everything down, and everybody's sicker than ever. They got more allergies, all these things, the hypersensitivities, all of this stuff. I'm not saying that people don't have hypersensitivities and things like that. They do, but the reasons why they do is different. Than it's not the germs. It's because they have lowered vitality, abnormal composition of blood and lymph, accumulated waste material in the system, toxemia. That's why they have, so their pot is overflowing. That's what's going on there. But this germ thing, we cannot escape. You can't escape them. We know now, and this you may or may not know this, that the human genome is, they've done the Human Genome Project. They mapped all this out. They thought they had C. elegans, the worm, and they do a lot of the genetic research on, had about 20,000 genes. They thought, oh, we're humans, we're so great, we're gonna have like, these hundreds of thousands of genes. Turns out, guess what? We got about 20,000 genes, and they're just coded and expressing and communicating differently. And guess what? They create humans. It creates what we are. We cannot argue this. This is not like open for debate. It is there. This is the real science, and we're looking at it, and we're seeing, and it's amazing. It's miraculous. How does this happen? It's totally mystical and amazing and magical, and that's life, and that's biology, and that's awesome. And also mixed in that are all these germs. So what you call you is the human frame, the 6-foot frame, the 5-foot frame, whatever kind of frame you have, is mostly bacteria, is mostly fungi. And you'll see this, I think I might have spoken about this in another one of the videos. You'll see this come out in the research, and you see a lot of this coming out in medicine, talking about the microbiome, these kinds of things. Well, guess what? We're going to come out, and in the real personalized medicine is going to, you actually have individualized microbiome clouds. You're full of bacteria. You're actually very little percent what we would call human DNA. It's mostly bugs, bacteria, fungi. It's a whole ecosystem. The human organism, the human system, the biological system, the biochemistry, the metabolism. It's this wonderful symphony, this wonderful orchestra that is divinely inspired and divinely created, this organism. And all of these things are happening, and a lot of it is germs in the system. So instead of concentrating all the energy on killing the bad guy, which is oversimplifying a highly complex issue, we want to instead, and what the naturecure line of thought would say, as well as other wisdom traditions like Ayurveda, there's a lot in common here. Just using the language of naturecure in today's session. What we need to do is actually invigorate the system. We need to begin to build up the blood and the lymph. We need to purify the tissues, purify the digestive system, open up the organs of elimination, make sure the routes of elimination can throw off this morbid material. And then guess what happens when you do that? You stimulate the vitality as well, using homeopathic medicines, hydrotherapy, other methods. When you do that, you boost the vitality, you start to build the blood and the lymph, give the body what it needs, nourish the tissues, these things, and detoxify the system. Guess what happens? The immune system rouses up, and all of a sudden, it mounts a response. There may be a fever, there may be a discharge, there may be some kind of response that's mounted in the system, but that's the natural immunity, and that's how health is actually restored. It doesn't wipe out and kill the germs. They're still there. Now, an exception to that would be, and this is kind of where antibiotics save lives, in the instance that I'm about to tell you. This comes from a wartime medicine, antibiotics. And we're talking about in the field, limbs severed, massive infections, gangrene, major infections, or due to subpar hygiene, which was the major factor in the reduction of infectious diseases, was actually the changes in hygiene that happened, okay? And that is a little bit of a different story, but the point is, when there is a mounted response in the body and there gets an infection, now if that disease can actually kill the person, if in a case where there is lowered vitality and then the pathological organism basically overtakes the human organism and death ensues, okay? That's a situation, and we'll see that sometimes, for example, in elderly cases. This is the number one cause of death oftentimes, from maybe, grandma, grandpa falls and breaks their hip, they end up in the hospital, stasis, laid up, pneumonia sets in, infection takes over, and the organism ceases to exist. The individual dies and leaves the body. That's not necessarily the bug that did that. It's because the vitality was not there to mount the response. And then on top of that, with heroic allopathic measures, toxic medicines are added into the system that further suppress the vitality, and the organism itself may succumb, die, okay? There are cases, and in situations like that, antibiotics can be life-saving, life-preserving. Those are special cases. There's different cases for young people that are healthy, vibrant, vital. What we really want to do is do things that are going to stimulate the vitality, invigorate the system, build the blood and the lymph, detoxify the system, so that the natural immunity can take over. And then that memory part of the immune system will be anchored in there forever. And there will provide that long-lasting immunity. That's how this thing really works. And so you can do this. And in naturecure, everything is aimed and directed to this to this goal without injuring the system and without putting any poisonous drugs or toxins into the system. Those things are good nature cure treatments. That's how this thing really works. So those things that happen, inflammation and fever that come along in that kind of situation, those aren't the primary. Those aren't primary. Those are secondary manifestations. So we don't want to mistake that inflammatory disease, a fever, let's say. Let's work with this example. This is the best example, the most common example, where the immune system is mounting a response. The fever is spiking. The temperature is rising in the body. This is a side effect of the immune system actually working. And the last thing we want to do is slam the door on that. The last thing that we want to do is suppress that, because then that's going to drive that, it's going to shut the immune system down, and then that is going to actually, it will rebound, and that sometimes, again, depending on the vitality of the system, can rebound higher and overtake the system. So we have to be very careful with this. We have to actually just manage the fever. Fever is your friend. Getting sick, getting a cold every 1 to 2 years is actually healthy. That's a good thing. I get the most concerned when I have a case in front of me, a person, and they say, hey doc, I haven't been sick in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years. I'm like, oh man. That's usually one of those cases that has progressed and is now a more complex, more complicated, deeper seated chronic condition, because we've swept it under the rug for so long, and then after you do that for so long, the vitality becomes diminished, and that person cannot even mount an immune response, so they don't get sick anymore. That's not a good thing. Every couple of years, good to get sick. It's like an immune system upgrade, little kind of systems check, upgrade everything, update everything, clean the system off, throw off any morbid matter in an attempt to cleanse the system, boost the vitality, boost the immune system. This is how it's really working. So this is something, some of you guys may know this. If you do this, if you do know these things, awesome. It's this knowledge is priceless. This knowledge is the power, and this power is how you're going to create, restore, maintain, and spread health. Okay, it is by knowing and understanding these things. That's why I think these principles are so important. It's the principles are the key. So basically, when it comes to the treatment of the acute disease, the modern school of medicine overlooks this whole thing, and the name of the game becomes knock out the fever, knock out the inflammation, take care of it. And it's basically a case of mistaken identity. You're mistaking a fever for the bad guy when he's actually the good guy, and you wipe him out. Your ally, your helper, your assistant. You need the fever. You need that system. And so this is how this really works. A quote from Hippocrates, who's often called the father of medicine. He says, "Give me a fever and I can cure every disease." These guys knew these things. This is not new what we're talking about. This is actually very, very old. And so it's made full circle. And so that's kind of how we're here. Every acute disease is the result of a cleansing and a healing effort of nature. And so germ theory is false. Germs are not going anywhere. It's impossible for that to actually happen. Acute disease, to get cold, to get sick every once in a while, is healthy. Fever is your friend. Fever is your ally. And if you suppress this, if this is suppressed downstream, not immediately, but downstream, other symptoms will start to manifest. And downstream, if that process of suppression continues, you end up with the vitality being diminished and the imbalance is driven deeper and deeper and deeper into the economy of the organism, into the economy of the person, deeper into the system. And when that does come out, that will manifest based on that individual's genetics, susceptibility, constitution, their lifestyle, epigenetic manifestations. Many things are going to determine karmically how, all these things are going to come into play, how exactly that's going to manifest. It's not a straight road there. There's individualization in the disease process, right? That happens too. So this is the download that I wanted to transmit today. So I hope this has been helpful. The NatureCure philosophy never loses sight of the fundamental laws of cure. And you get clear on this. So the systems of the modern medicine aim to suppress these things, and now we're learning and now we're realizing and seeing how that's perhaps not the best way to go, because if you continue to do that, if you continue to suppress, if you continue to do that, chronic disease will ensue. Guaranteed. It will. How exactly that happens, we don't know until it actually happens. And then guess what happens? How do we cure chronic disease? We'll talk about that in another video, but we have to undo the whole process. And we peel those layers of the onion back, and we heal the system in reverse order of which the symptoms appeared. That's how it works. That's how you heal the system. That's the NatureCure philosophy. That's the philosophy of the new man. That's how we cooperate and we participate and we cooperate and we work with those divine, strategic, intelligent parts of the body, of the system, so that it can heal itself, so that we can reach that lofty goal of the spiritual illumination, of the spiritual awakening, of the enlightenment, of connecting to God in the healthy temple of the body. That's what we're talking about, okay? So that's the download I wanted to give today. NatureCure never suppresses. It always works with the healing power of nature. I hope you guys found this helpful. I love talking about the philosophy. So let me know what you guys think. Leave me a comment below. If subscribe if you have not subscribed, so you can know when new videos come out, and we're going to continue these conversations in more depth and hopefully create more clarity. And the name of the game is to put the knowledge and the power into your hands so you can create health for yourself, for your family, so that you can be a better person, a better spouse, a better mom, a better dad, a better employee, be more creative, be more dialed in, and really feel more like yourself and enjoy life. That's really kind of what we're talking about. So that's why we're talking about all this stuff. So I hope you found this helpful. Let's pick it up here next session. Leave me a comment, subscribe. I look forward to hearing from you. I'll answer you guys directly, and we will see you next time. Thanks.